find someone's age by solving a single variable equation. But in order to do that, let's look at a few examples. Louis is 26 years old. His daughter is 4 years old. In how many years will Louis be double his daughter's age? Now, in order to understand this question, let's draw a timeline. Here's our timeline. Let's suppose that this point at the start of our timeline represents now. So, how old are Louis and his daughter now? Well, the question tells us that Louis is 26 years old. And it also tells us that his daughter is 4 years old. Now, the question is asking, how many years later will Louis be double his daughter's age? So let's fast forward a few years. Let's say this point here is t years later. Notice how I used the variable t to represent the number of years later, since this is what we want to find out. So, how old are Louis and his daughter t years later? All we have to do is add t years to Louis and his daughter's current age. So, Louis's age t years later would be 26 plus t. Notice how I used parentheses, which tells us to consider this as a single unit, as Louis's age. Now, let's find his daughter's age t years later. Now, his daughter is 4 years old. So t years later, her age is 4 plus t. Now the problem tells us that after a certain number of years, Louis will be double his daughter's age. And we want to find the value of t. So let's put this into an equation. We can set up our equation like this, where Louis's age t years later is 2 times his daughter's age t years later. Now, let's open the parentheses. 26 plus t is equal to 8 plus 2t. Now, let's bring the variable terms to one side of the equal sign and take the constants to the other side. So let's start by bringing 8 to this side of the equation. Now, let's take positive t to the other side of the equation. This gives us 26 minus 8, which is equal to 2t minus t. Now, let's simplify both sides of the equation. 26 minus 8 is 18, and 2t minus t is simply t. So, Now we know the value of t. T is 18. So, in 18 years, Louis will be double his daughter's age. Now, let's look at another example. Jake is 10 years older than his brother, Mark. In 4 years, he will be twice as old as Mark. Find the present age of Jake and Mark. Just like before, let's put this on a timeline. Here is our timeline. Let's say that this point at the start of our timeline is the time now. So, how old are Jake and Mark now? Well, that is what the question is asking. So, let's assume Mark and Jake's age by using a variable. Let's assume Mark's age as A. And since Jake is 10 years older than Mark, Jake's age is A plus 10. Notice how I used parentheses here. Now, let's fast forward 4 years. How old are Mark and Jake in 4 years? To find this, all we have to do is add 4 years to their current ages. So, Mark's age in 4 years will be A plus 4. And Jake's age in 4 years will be A plus 10 plus 4, which we can simplify. 10 plus 4 is 14. So, Jake's age in 4 years will be A plus 14. Now, let's look back at the question. It tells us that in 4 years, Jake will be twice as old as Mark. And we want to find the value of A. So let's set this up using an equation, which we can set up like this. 2 times A plus 4, which is Mark's age in 4 years, is equal to A plus 14, which is Jake's age in 4 years. Now, let's open the parentheses. This gives us 2A plus 8 is equal to A plus 14. Now, let's bring the variable terms and the constant terms to opposite sides of the equation. So, let's start by taking A to this side of the equal sign. Now, let's take positive 8 to the other side of the equal sign. Next, let's simplify both sides of the equation. 2A minus A is just A, which is equal to 14 minus 8, which is 6. This gives us a solution of A is equal to 6. So, Mark now is 6 years old. But how old is Jake now? Well, we assumed that Jake's age is A plus 10. And we know A is 6. So we can add 6 plus 10 to get Jake's age, which is 16 years old.